Alright, so once again, hello guys and welcome to another of our Excel classes. So in today's class, we are going to have a complete recap about Excel, and we'll see how the basics of Excel works. We'll talk principally about the formulas and how to calculate things. We'll not talk about the app in itself. Since the beginning of the course, I told you that you will need to be a bit familiar with the Excel, so maybe use it 1 or 2 times. Not an expert, but once again, just familiar, and understand how works the app. So in this class, we'll have a recap. We'll talk about some basic things. How I divided this course is really in 3 things. The first thing we'll talk about is how to make basic calculations, for example, additions, subtractions, divisions, and multiplications. The second part of the course will really be about functions. What's a function? We'll talk about the basic functions that exists on Excel, how to use them, how to do everything with all those functions. And at the end, we'll talk about some more advanced functions. So for those who use Excel on a daily basis, or for those who already saw my last Excel course, you can just jump this class. It's a complete recap. For the rest who think that they need a recap and see how works the if function and the VLOOKUP and Excel in general, you can follow this class and just jump to the parts that you need the most, or you need a recap the most. So let's start. First thing you guys want to do is open up your Excel. The first thing we are gonna talk about is really the basic things you can do on Excel. So how I like to name Excel is, for me, it's like a huge calculator. That's how I personally think of Excel. So the first thing you can do on it is some basic calculations. So additions, subtractions, divisions, and everything. So let's try it out. Let's, for example, do 2 plus 3. So we have 2 numbers right here, and we want to make an addition of those 2 numbers. The first thing we want to do is click on the equal sign, click on the first number, addition, second number. And as you can see, we have 5, which is our answer. Let's say right now we want to make a subtraction. And as you can see, we just changed the sign right here. And we have our answer, which is -1. If we want to do a multiplication, the exact same thing. So as you can see, the answer is 6. And if we want to do a division, well, as you can see, that's the answer. If we have, for example, I don't know, some other numbers, and we want to grow our calculation. So what is cool about Excel is that it will make the calculation itself, but not only this, it will respect the priority of operations, which means, for example, it will make a multiplication before making an addition, which is the priority of operations. And no matter how big the calculation is, Excel will still be able to do it. So that's for the first part. Right now you know how to calculate, how to do some basic things on Excel, which are additioning, multiplying, dividing, and subtracting. All right, so right now what we will talk about is Excel functions. So once again, for those who are familiar with all this, you can jump to the next class. So the basic of functions, first of all, you will need to have, if you don't have my Excel, my version of Excel, I have the last one. Don't worry, we will not use all those functions right here. If you do, you can simply click on the formula and you will find out all the options of functions that exist. So as you can see, you have hundreds of different functions that exist. You have even for statistics options and for engineering, which is really, really cool. For the rest who can't find this tab right here, it's not that hard. The functions that we will use, they don't require this tab. So you'll see you will be able to follow the course. So the first function we want to talk about is the average. So first of all, what's a function? Basically, a formula is when you calculate something. So let's say you want to calculate the average of those numbers. So how you will calculate the average of all those numbers? By using the formula of the average, which in this case will be making an addition of those variables. So we'll addition all those variables, and then we'll divide it by the number of variable, which is 4. So we select all our variables and we'll divide it by 4. So this is the average. Right now, with Excel, you are able to calculate the average way faster just by using a function. And we will use, in this case, the function of average. So we click on equal and simply write down average. So just write down AV and you will be able to select it. It's the second one. When it's done, simply select the 4 numbers right here and click on enter. And as you can see, you have your average right there. So it's very, very simple. And that's only for 4 numbers. But let's say you have hundreds of numbers. Let's try it out. So what we'll do right now is you will write down the function random. So simply write down rand between. What this function will do is it will simply generate a random number between, let's say, 1 and 200. So between 2 numbers, it will generate a number between the first number right here and the second number right there. So we have a random number generated. What we'll do right now, we'll take the cell, we'll drag it like this. Select all those cells and drag them down right there. So right now we have random numbers that are generated, and each time we refresh the page, we will see some new numbers. So let's say we want to calculate the average of all those numbers. Simply write down equal and write down average. Here we go. We select all those numbers and we click on enter. So as you can see, Excel generated the average of all those numbers. So we'll write down average here. Now let's say we want to calculate the max, which is the highest number of all those. We want to find out the highest number. So we will use the max function. So we'll write down equal, then click max and select once again all those numbers and click on enter. So as you can see, we have the max here, and each time we refresh the page, well, the max will change or stay the same depending of what the new max is. Same thing with the lowest number. Let's say we want to find out the lowest number, which is the min. We'll simply write down equal min and select all our numbers. So as you can see, the lowest number is 1, which is min. As you can see, a function is really just a way for you guys to calculate way faster instead of making the calculation by yourself. So instead of you making this number plus all those numbers and divided by the number of numbers, the average is automatically calculated. Another function that we will see is count. Let's say I want to calculate how many numbers I have here. So we'll simply write down equal count and I select all my numbers. And what Excel will do, it will calculate all my numbers. I have 260 numbers here. Same thing if I want to calculate, let's say, the sum of all those numbers. Well, what I will do is simply write down equal sum and select all my numbers. So as you can see, Excel calculates the sum of everything, and each time I refresh the page, well, the answers are automatically refreshed. So those are the basic functions of Excel. For those who want to see more complex functions, they are all here. So you have some other functions. We will not talk about all of them. It's gonna take us an eternity, and we want to jump to the data analysis part. So right now we have we talked about the basic functions that exist. But what about some more advanced functions? So right now it's the part 3 of this course. We'll talk about more advanced functions. The first one will be the if function, then the if or function, the if error function, and finally the VLOOKUP. So those are the 4 functions. Well, it could be VHLOOKUP, but we will talk about the V, which is, well, that's the most common one that is used. So those functions are functions of condition. So let's say a situation of 2 persons. So let's say we have person 1 and person 2, and we have the income of those persons. So let's generate a random income for both of them. Let's say you will generate a number of let's say the income will be between 1,000 and let's say 25,000. Same thing for the second person. So we have two incomes that are generated. So right now what we will do, we want to verify if the income of person 1 is greater than the income of person 2, we will write down yes. But in the other case, we will write down no. So let's write it down. So for this, we'll write down the if function. So the first part of the if function is our logical test, which is the test that we want Excel to do for us. So logical test will be if this number is greater than this number, we want, so when it's done, you write down a comma, we want to generate yes. So to write a text, you have to write down those little things here. Want to write down yes. In the other case, we want to write down no. So here we go. As you can see, it's no because the income of the person number 2 is greater than the income of person number 1. And each time we refresh, well, the answer will change or stay the same. So as you can see, every time that the income of person number 1 is lower than number 2, the answer will be no. So let's say right now we have more than 2 people. We have, let's say, 4 people. And instead of calculating instead of doing just one condition, we want to have a lot of conditions. We want to verify if the income of person 1 is greater than person number 2 or person number 3 or person number 4. We'll generate yes. Yes. In the other case, we'll generate no. So how do we do this? Simply write down equal if. Then we have not only one condition, we have multiple conditions. So we'll use if or. Simply write down if, open your parentheses, then write down or. So our logical test will be the first one, because we have more than one logical test. We want to see if the income of person number 1 is greater than person number 2, or the income of person number 1 is greater than the income of person number 3, or if the income of person number 1 is greater than person number 4. When it's all done, simply close your parentheses, write down comma. So that's basically our logical test in our if function. We have 3 logical tests. So the value if true, if one of those things is respected, well, we want Excel generate us yes. If none of those conditions is respected, we want Excel to generate no. So as you can see, the income of person number 1 is greater than the income of person number 2. All right. Once again, the income of person number 1 is not greater than the income of person number 2, but the income of number 1 is greater than the person number 3. So once again, Excel will do the test for us. Last thing, if error. So let's say, for example, an error appears. So let me just give you an example. So let's say you want to multiply 5 by a letter. So Excel will generate you an error right here. Let's say you want you don't want Excel to generate an error. So what exactly you will write? You will write down if error. It will be the second one here. So if an error is generated in this calculation, let's say we want Excel to write down error. And we simply click on enter. So if there is no errors, Excel will make the calculation. But if we have an error, well, Excel will write down error because we decided this. We can write down even bigger text, which will be, for example, this is an error. So that's it for the if functions. If you guys need to practice more, you can rewatch this part of the course. I tried to explain it my best. Once again, it's really a question of practice for the if functions. It's complicated, but the more you practice it, the more you'll see it's going to become easy. You will need it for the rest of the course also. It's very important for you to understand. The last thing we're going to see here is the VLOOKUP. So it's the function right here. So it's a function to find something. So let's say we have a small database of persons. So let's say we have their name, their family, their income. So simply write down a basic database. And income will generate random income once again between 1 and 20. All right, amazing. Okay. So what we'll write down, VLOOKUP. Instead of 1 to 20, we'll write down 5 to 25. It's gonna write down something bigger. It will be more interesting. All right. So when it's all done, simply write down equal here. So VLOOKUP. What is a VLOOKUP function? So this function is really for you guys to look for something. Let's say I want to look in this table right here for the number 4. So I will write down, I want to look for the number 4, which we'll write down here. When we find out the number that is written here, where we want to look for it. So we want to look for it in this table right there. And what column we want to generate. So the first column, the second, the third, the fourth. So we want Excel to generate the third column. Let's say, for example, we want to look for it family name. So it's an error. All right. Okay, perfect. So right here we are, let me just write it down a bit easier. Number searching. Okay. So the first thing we have is the number that we are searching. Let's say we are searching for number 4, because we only have 4 numbers. And we want to find the family name of the person number 4. How we'll do this? So we'll write down equal VLOOKUP. We have our function here. So we are looking for this number, then comma, in this database. So we select the whole database, and we want Excel to find, to generate which row. So for example, Excel find a number 4. We want Excel to generate the row number 3, so which is FA4. And as you can see, the family name of the person number 4 is FA4. If I change his family name to 2, well, it's gonna automatically find the family name of the person number 2. So let me explain one more time for those who didn't really understand. VLOOKUP is really divided in 3 parts. So we have our function. The first thing we will need in this function is the number that we are looking for. So in this case, we are looking for this cell. All right. So where exactly we are looking for this cell? We are looking for this cell in this database right here. Okay. So we select, the second thing we do is select the database. All right. So when we select the database, Excel find out the cell. What exactly you want Excel to generate as an answer? So I want Excel to generate the third column. So the last array is the column number. So from number 4, I want Excel to generate the third column. So 1, 2, 3. If I want Excel to generate an income, the income, for example, I will write down column number 4, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here we go. We have the income of person number 7. Person number 4. So that's for the VLOOKUP function. So that's it for this course, guys. Right now, you know, you had a complete recap of Excel. You know absolutely everything that you need to know to be able to complete this course. You have all the basics and all the basics. In the next course, we are gonna talk a bit about the condition formatting, and it's very important to understand the if functions to be able to make the condition formatting part. So that's it for this course, and see you in our next class.